All right, darling. Oh, yeah, you did hit record.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, then. So we shall begin. Let's have some fun and feel free to swear. Just be you. Obviously, don't say COVID or anything like that because I've got 2 strikes. That's my last one.
Right.
So, all right,
right.
darling, let's have some fun. Okay.
Sounds good. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Hi there. I'm Dani, spiritual therapist. How are you on the 4th of February, 2022? Today, we're going to meet a mermaid. Good afternoon. Hello, darling. How are you? Please introduce us and tell us your full name.
Happy Aloha Friday to everybody. I go by Ameera Atlantis, Mer Healer. I guess that's my professional name, but it's really more than just a professional or a stage name. It's an energy or a frequency that Spirit has asked me to take on. Not only do I teach and talk about the great kingdom of Atlantis and the Mer People, I was actually asked to incorporate it into my public name to help draw more people to me. Anybody who might be curious about Atlantis, about the fall of Atlantis, about how we are rebuilding and bringing forward the great kingdom again, and of course, all the Mer People.
Beautiful. You mentioned that there's the name Ameera Atlantis. This is more of a spirit-given kind of vibration frequency, so it has a sound to it. Did you translate the sound yourself into those letters to make the verbal vocal name, or is there another way that they gave you that actual written name there?
Well, what's funny is my name was kind of an evolution. I was born Elizabeth. Elizabeth was my birth name. And as I went through my spiritual awakening and transition, and started learning who I was through past life regression therapy. And maybe we'll get into that in a bit. One day I was laying out in my backyard, just laying out in the sun, and I heard this voice say, "You're going to change your name." And I said, "I'm going to change my name? What do you mean? What am I going to change it to?" They said, you'll figure it out, but you're going to change your name. And so subsequently, I went to a therapist, had a past life regression session, and the name Ameera as my birth name, or as my mermaid name, was given to me. And I felt this very strong calling to take on the energy of my mer self and bring it into, this timeline, into this dimension. So I legally changed my name. My family called me Beth out of Elizabeth. And so in time, I legally changed my name to Ameera Beth. And that's actually my full legal name is Ameera Beth. And then again, as time went on, last year I was playing around on Facebook and I thought, I'm just going to change my name on Facebook to Ameera Atlantis. That just sounds really cute and fun, right? And I changed it. And it just, you know how when you shift one thing, everything changes. And I just got that landing in of my soul going, yes, this is how you will identify going forward. So the vibration or kind of what you were referring to before was just that sacred yes from my soul, asking me to step deeper into my own authority and to my sovereignty and my mission, and accept this as my professional name, I guess you'll say, going forward.
So a couple of things. Obviously, people randomly finding this broadcast on YouTube or wherever it ends up being, where else, will go, "Has she got a tail?" That it's the first, because we're so programmed to push away anything fairies, Sasquatch, and aliens, anything. We are programmed, we are hardwired to never ever question, never look at that. And if you do, then the program that is in the brain is like idiot, fool, liar, fantasist, etc.
Yeah.
And I just love that people like you are just coming up and coming out and sharing their stories, wholly and sincerely in their experiences. And that's just wonderful. I would love to start at the very beginning with you. I would like you to tell me and the audience that will watch this, hi guys, how you came. Well, let's talk about your first memories. Like, was it spiritual from the beginning? Did being a mermaid come later in life? Like, what was the journey?
It's really interesting. I was born very cloaked in my spirituality, meaning I was born into a family that was very traditional Catholic, very mainstream. And I was like most probably watching out there, I was extremely empathic and sensitive, but didn't have the verbiage or the working knowledge of what that meant to feel so different and feel so empathic in my very mainstream family. And I had a wonderful mother and father in that, they loved me and my sisters very, very much. They were, of course, very caught in their mainstream programming about many, many things, which I was not wired for from the very beginning. I was very thinking outside the box of, this kind of 3D life and how we were supposed to manage ourselves in a family that was very much, you go to school, you maybe go to college, you get married, you buy a house, you drive a minivan, you have children, and your family is your life. That was the programming that I was brought up into, because for my parents, from their backgrounds, and they both came from very broken backgrounds, they came together, and that's what made them feel safe, or what they created a family unit in a way that they felt would create a safe container for their children. And going to church, and the mom stayed home, and the dad worked. Very kind of traditional type of thinking, which now I look back and I see the gift in that. Like, I see the gift that I had in having parents who 55, 56 years later are still married and made it through the hard times and committed to each other, and committed to their family. So I see the gift and the blessing they try to pass on to me. My sisters went that route and have done very, very well. I grew up not really knowing or understanding who I was, just knowing that I was different in my thinking, and did exactly like I was taught. Got married, had a baby, bought a house, bought a minivan, stayed home for the most part. And this man who was, I went the route of what my family expected me to do. This is what you do. This is what you do when you were growing up.
That's what billions and billions of us, of course, have had to do and done. And so you're saying that there wasn't any specific dreams, any experiences being taken off planet at a tiny baby, nothing like that.
I'm looking back now, I was very, very cloaked. But what I do remember now is when I was in junior high school, when children go through puberty, especially girls, sometimes it can be very, very difficult on our emotions, on our hormones. And when I started to recognize what an empath I was, I became very suicidal. I even wrote a will in 7th grade and bequeathed all my stuff to my friends and my sisters, because I thought I'm not going to make it till 19. I'm just not going to be here. I'm going to check out. And in my dream time around them, as I was really, really struggling to stay on this planet, I would have these dreams, and these beings would come to me, and they would comfort me. And I can't even tell you what the beings were, other than some kind of galactic council would say, stay, it's going to change. This is what your life is going to be like. You're going to be okay. We're going to help you. Like, they would come to me night after night and tell me to stay. Ask me, just stay. It's going to be okay. We promise. You're not going to know for a while, but it's going to be okay. So fast forwarding into my 20s, married, divorced, going into my 30s, married, divorced, still trying to come into that acceptance mold of my family for this girl who just couldn't think like that. And when I finally had my spiritual awakening around in my late 30s, it was a very dramatic 2x4 to the head. Coming out of thinking I was really just here to be a wife and a mother. I was married to my second husband. I had 3 children, including a little baby, and thinking that, I wasn't fulfilled, but had resigned myself to, I guess this is my life. This is what I was taught to do.
Mm-hmm. Did you at all, right up until that point, did you ever have a fascination for Atlantis? Did you ever feel drawn to mermaids, dolphins, anything
didn't know
like that
Atlantis was a real thing?
Or was it just
didn't know Atlantis was a real thing. Didn't know mermaids were a real thing.
Really?
No.
No, you were cloaked. You were definitely cloaked.
Super super close. No, I had a friend who was a psychic healer, and I'd gone to see her over the years, you know, for like boyfriend problems and money problems and all the 3D stuff. And she was trying to give me books and trying to help me wake up, because even back then she kind of saw who I was. But no, I was completely checked out from the mystical, magical, metaphysical world, even though I would wander metaphysical shops going, wow, these crystals are so great. These books are so great, but still like just here.
Do you think that had anything to do with your Catholic programming, that we mustn't look at crystals or anything like that?
No, that there was never that. My ferrets never invited any kind of superstition in or anything like that. I think I just didn't get it. Like, you know how you get the shoulder taps from spirit and you get a little bit of from spirit and you ignore it and you ignore it.
Yeah.
And one day God goes, hey, it's time, girl. We need you.
Okay. Wow.
And then you
So
look
what
back
happened?
over your life and see all the things that were
Yes.
trying to wake you up.
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely. Amazing. So other than you meeting the beings when you were feeling suicidal, right at the height of your kind of emotional psychosis, knowing that I don't fit, I just shouldn't be here, I can't do this, it's too depressing. That was the last experience you had spiritually, awakening-wise, until your actual whack around the head awakening.
Yeah, you know,
Okay,
and
so
I didn't even remember those experiences in junior high and high school until later in life. And then they came back to me, and I remember what happened that helped me to stay here.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So just briefly share with us, what was your whack around the head? Where were you? How old are you? What was the situation that woke you, as you said, an awakening? What was that like for you?
37, maybe 38 years old, December 2005, sitting with my young son in my arms and watching Oprah. And watching this show where she shared the lives of women all around the world who were 30. And most of them had very different lives than I did. Most of them lived through tremendous atrocities, things that in my little suburban housewife life, I could have never even imagined. But as I sat and watched that show and watched these women speak and looked into their eyes and felt their stories and felt their energy, I lost it. And I literally bawled through that entire episode of Oprah, and my heart chakra opened, which I didn't even know what a chakra was. I had a complete meltdown and just fell in love with these women. Like I literally just like lost control of my emotions, fell in love with them. And I recognized later in life, that was my first experience with sisterhood and with the goddess energy and with divine feminine. That was the super blast I got on that Oprah show, to see that I was one with every woman and really every person on this planet.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think you might need to turn just a little bit, turn your mic up just a tiny bit, because it's really difficult to know when we're recording. I don't want to take a chance that that people can't hear you.
Okay. Hopefully that'll be better.
That's a bit better. Definitely, definitely. Okay. So you have this breakdown, you have a heart opening. Was it physically painful for you, like it is for some people?
It was physically painful in that I had never felt that tremendous amount of love and compassion for, not even with my friends, you know, my children. I had never felt something that enormously heavy but beautiful at the same time.
Bit of it. Okay, good.
Are we okay?
Okay.
How's this, Dani? Oops, now I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, well,
okay. I thought I might take my speaker
at my... me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
The Mer People trying to get in on the action.
So the pain was...
Perfect. So let's just continue. Little bit of interference.
The pain was the tremendous love and compassion that I didn't know how to handle. It just broke me open.
Did your husband notice a shift in you?
Well, I went to him a few days later and I'm crying for 3 days. And I said, I don't know what's happening to me. I saw these women on Oprah and I just love them and I can't stop thinking about them. And I was literally bawling 3 days later. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what to tell you. And so that feeling stayed with me into the first of the year, 2006. A good friend of mine gave me Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. I started reading that, and I would read that book, and I was reading about, the law of attraction and God as source for the first time. And I was freaking out again, like getting these downloads. I would have to read a chapter, put the book away, and I was getting so heated up and having such a rapid like fire reaction that I had a hard time even getting through the book. Started hearing my name called in the middle of the night.
Really, really, really.
Just spirit, just like go, 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 just like super loading me.
Wow. When you say that it was a heated sensation of fire, are you referring to Kundalini at the base of the spine, that a lot of people have a Kundalini awakening or experience, or was it more kind of internal for you?
I think it was all of the above. I would not have called it Kundalini at the time because I didn't even know that word. But now reflecting back, it was like I would get these surges of energy up through me that were very, very intense, as well as feeling like there was energy around me. And so very different sensations, for a woman in an awakening stage. I can't talk to anybody about it. Husband doesn't understand. Friends don't understand. Okay, so I'm going through this whole process, and I ultimately went back to my friend who was the psychic, and her name was Amy, and I sat down in front of her in January of that year, and I started to cry, and I said, I don't know what's happening to me. I saw this show on Oprah. I'm reading this book, and I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And she went, oh, congratulations, you've woken up. I've been waiting years for this. And Dani, I looked at her and I said, put me back to sleep.
Oh my God.
I said, I don't like it. I don't know what to do with myself. My husband doesn't understand me and I feel crazy. She's like, no, once you've woken up, there's no going back to sleep, and read this book and you're going to do this and like meditate. She like outlined, gave me assignments and said, you're here to be more than a wife and mother. And I've always known this about you. I've been waiting a long time for you to get it, Elizabeth, she called me. And she says, your husband and you are going to move back to Portland and you're going to do that. And she named off all these things. And I sat there like,
wow.
What? Me? So we go through this whole session where she's downloading me with my future. And I get back in my minivan to drive back to the suburbs. And I was, there was some part of me, even though I was having a hard time wrapping my mind around that could possibly belong to me, there was this other part of me that went, boom, I have purpose. And I knew it was right. And I knew she was right. And I decided to do everything she told me to do to awaken and figure out who this woman was becoming.
Was there anything in particular? I love that you referenced to Dr. Wayne Dyer, who so many people have loved, and he's now in spirit. It was such a good spiritual teacher. What was the name of the book that you read the first time from him?
The Power of Intention. And it just, again, just blew me wide open.
Just for people out there, because there's so many people right this second on the exact same track that you are. Not that they're going to find out they're a mermaid, but they're on their spiritual awakening, cracking open. And I just want to be as helpful as possible, because there'll be a lot of recognition with your story.
And it's really good for me to share this with people out there who are on the fringe and coming into their awakening, because so often we feel alone, or we feel like we're crazy, or we feel like there's nobody out there to give us a container for what's happening to us, because our left brain wants to understand what all this right brain activity is happening. We don't feel safe as humans if our left brain can't make sense of it. So something I am very, very good at is helping people develop, or giving them a language to explain intangibles. because most of what's happened is a complete intangible. It's very abstract. So I love working with people who are, newly learning the language, having the experiences, and help them balance both sides of their energy, both sides of their brain, and helping them to feel safe in their process. Because we don't feel safe in our process, right? It's going to be really hard for us to step into it and continue. So when you have a partner, when you have somebody who's like, can translate, do the translating, and has actually walked that path. And my path gets even kind of wilder once I started doing regressions and finding out my mermaid history. Every single one of us on this planet come from somewhere else. We have soul origins that don't necessarily belong to this planet. Some of us remember being from the angelic realm or resonate with the angelic. Some of us with the fairy realm, extraterrestrial. And as I went through my process and opened up my YouTube channel and started talking publicly about being a mermaid and about Atlantis, I had to decide that I had no fucks to give about what anybody else was going to say.
That's what you have to do. You have to be that way.
My family didn't get it. Most of my friends didn't get it. And I did it anyway. And I did it anyway because I could not do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have found overwhelmingly since in the last 10, 12 years that I've been talking publicly, openly about this, overwhelmingly, I have people who say, thank you. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for helping me in my own process and coming forward with courage and talking about this, because I feel like I come from this realm and you help me to feel like I can own that.
Yeah. There's lots of people that have to do a past life regression and they see themselves as another being and another species. I've done so many of these for people. I had one woman once who was lying on the floor with her eyes closed, going like this. And when she came out of trance, she was like, I was a bear. She was amazed at the size of her paws. So tell us about the time when you first connected to yourself as a mermaid. Was that past life regression? What did it look like? Give us the whole explanation, please.
Okay, so a couple of years later, I'm living in Portland, Oregon with my family and my husband, and I was a daily meditator. Send the kids to school, and I would sit down in my meditation corner and just try and be with spirit and develop myself in that way. One day in September of 2007, I think it was, my arms and hands began to move independently of my will. Meaning I opened my eyes and my arms were going like this in these swimmy, flowy motions. And I sat there and went, what's happening, right? And I realized that if I yielded to that energy, my whole body would writhe and my legs and everything would move like there was some kind of a force within me coming through me. And I didn't have any idea what that was, but I did find when I went to my husband or my children that my hands would start to move like this type of emotion, maybe around their energy centers. I could take away headaches. I could soothe my children, and my arms would just kind of my hands would just take on kind of a life force of their own and go where they needed to help people around me with however they were feeling. So I got curiouser and curiouser, and I had been reading about past life regression therapy. I'd been reading Dr. Brian Weiss, Dolores Cannon, and was very curious about past life regression therapy. And I found a therapist in Portland named Julia Ingram. And I called her up and I said, I think I need to come have a session with you and find out what's happening with me. So I went to see her, went on her couch. She puts me in the trance. And immediately, as I go through the doorway into this other realm, I'm writhing up and down on her couch like this, exclaiming, I'm a mermaid, I'm a mermaid. And I'm in this body of this mermaid, and I'm swimming down, down, downtown. I'm like, there's a city beneath the sea, doing this whole thing. And of course, my left brain wants to go, you're crazy. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Elizabeth? She's going to think I'm nuts. She's going to think you're crazy. And of course, she didn't. She just went, okay, tell me more. And she told me over and over again, trust yourself. What else do you notice? Trust yourself. Go deeper. So I went through this whole experience where I discovered myself in this alternate universe, parallel reality, whatever you want to call it, as a mer being who lived in this underwater city. And that experience, and she kept asking me to go to my higher self. Well, why, who, what, all the things. And I'm relaying to her all this information my higher self is giving me about me, my journey here on this planet, and my soul origins. And what I really love about regression therapy is it's you talking to you. It's you giving yourself the therapy, right? And so that bond that I created with myself and with my higher guidance through that experience of regression therapy, I came out of that, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this changes everything about who I thought I was and what I'm going to do. And I decided to do more past life regressions, discover more. I actually took 3 levels of her training because it helped me so much to discover and remember more parts of my soul. That I went through three levels of her training, and started my own livelihood, offering this gift of helping other people to go deeper. It doesn't even matter. It could be your soul origin you're working on. It could be things with your parents you're working on, money, finances, love. All these things can be held and help us in this life.
Let's go back to the mermaid part, because that's the most fascinating part of all. So you're in a past life regression, and you start physically moving your arms, physically moving your body.
I was jumping up and down, moving up and down on her couch. Okay. It was completely somatic. I was completely embodied.
Right. So what did your body look like? What color was your hair?
Purple hair, long, very long purple hair.
As a mermaid?
Gold tail.
Again on a good bit. Say that again.
Gold tail with rainbows up the side. Gold tail with rainbows up the side. Yeah. Very light.
And what color was your hair?
My hair was a deep purple.
What color? Deep purple hair. You sound like a cartoon. A gold tail with rainbows. And were you covered with the breast covered? Like, what color was your skin? What color were your eyes?
Don't remember skin color. Don't remember. I remember being full nude, just full luscious self, right? Bright green eyes.
Wow, what a combination. Intoxicating.
And it's funny you said cartoon, because as I'm doing this, the first thing I thought is I've seen this in a cartoon. That was my left brain going, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'll tell a story later. I remember I told you a story very similar to the cartoon, multidimensional issue or thing that we get to see. So, okay, so there you are. You're in this mermaid body. Now, did you look human, or did you look something else with all that coloring?
So I couldn't really see my face in that vision. I was so enchanted by the fact that I was a mermaid, that a lot of the details at the time I didn't focus on. It was more the energy and the embodiment and the message I was getting around it. But in subsequent regressions and things, and I've done a lot of videos on the different types of mermaids and what they actually look like.
Okay, super. All right, so back to you, beautiful green-eyed mermaid. You have a full tail, purple hair. You're swimming down. Where are you swimming to? How deep are you going? And what does it look like? So
the visioning was very murky is not the right word, but like you would be looking through water, and much of it was very much in black and white. And I think that was because
you keep getting interrupted. Ameera, sorry, lovely. You keep, every time you want to share something fabulous, you keep getting interrupted. So I don't want to be bossy, but if I do this, it means that we can't hear you.
Got it.
All right. So you're describing under the ocean.
Yes.
What are you seeing?
I'm seeing, it's almost like watching a black and white movie. I'm seeing this underwater city that is covered by a bubble. And when you first start to regress, a lot of times you don't trust yourself as deeply as you do when you go into more. The more you do, the more vivid your images get. So mine was very kind of black and white. And I'm seeing this city at the bottom of the sea covered by a bubble. And all I can think is, I've seen this in a movie. I've seen this in a cartoon. Can this be real? But it was so, my soul recognized it so deeply that I had to keep going and keep swimming. How deep? I don't know. The bottom of the ocean. Mm-hmm. When I saw this city, I first called it Atlantis. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought it was.
Right, in your mind.
Now I have recognized, or I realized that there were actually two cities. There was an above ground Atlantis land, and then there was a mer world called Merlantis. And what I was visiting was the home of the Mer People, Merlantis. So I explored that city, and I was so overwhelmed by the beauty of being home and by that feeling of being in my homeland that I know I wept during that session.
Wow. Did you swim into the bubble? Like, how did you enter the bubble? How did you enter the city?
So when Mer People, if you're a mer being, you had a jewel around your neck, and that was your homing device. That jewel, no matter how far away we went, would bring us home. Merlantis was cloaked. You could not see it or even knew it was existed because it was cloaked by this bubble, unless you were Mer and had this jewel with you, or we were born with the jewel within us that would take you back right through the bubble, like you would just go right into it. It would sort of appear for you, and you could go home.
So it recognized your frequency. And
yes.
You're saying you were born with the jewel. Is the jewel on the inside of the body? Is it some kind of a crystalline tracker?
Mine was on like a neck piece. I would describe it as a neck piece.
What color is it?
It was mostly blues and teals, but sometimes it would change to purple. So It was always in the blue, teal, purple type of hues.
Right. Did you see people you knew when you entered Merlantis?
I did. I saw some of my friends who were, by that time I had met some other healers and teachers and people on the path, and I saw a few of them as well.
Mm-hmm. So what do they look like? What did Merlantis look like to you, and how did the people interact? Are they still swimming around in there?
They were swimming around in there. When I was there, I mostly saw it as empty, meaning I think Spirit set it up for me to be there without the interference of other beings, and just let me be home and even just attune myself to the idea that I was doing this is extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Over the top overwhelming. And I wept when I had to come up out of the experience because I didn't want to come back. I wanted to be home.
Wow. So you're in Merlantis. Atlantis is above you. I mean, Atlantis, we know, was thousands and thousands and thousands of miles across the world.
Correct.
That's my, thank you for I was just going to say, unless you've heard something different. So this part of Atlantis that the Merlantis was under, did you get to go up on the surface and look at Atlantis herself? What, do you remember any of that?
That wasn't till much later. I did many other regressions and have been all through Atlantis and remembered the healing temples and shape-shifting and all of that. And this experience, I needed to kind of have a small dose, if you will.
Yeah, of course.
Because what was happening to me was so intense. I was so much on overload that little bites of experiences here and there. But yes, I've been all through the great kingdom of Atlantis and other experiences.
Okay, so tell us, please. There are billions of people that want to know, what does Atlantis look like? What are the healing temples? Just go for it, girl.
Okay.
Fill us up.
So remember that Atlantis had 5 incarnations. There was 5 risings and fallings of Atlantis. And so the one I am mostly here to recall and speak about is the golden age of Atlantis, which fell about 13,000 years ago. And when I say fall, everybody has heard this idea of like Atlantis fell and it was such a bad, awful thing, and awful things happened in Atlantis. The fall really means the end of that era of the civilization. Also, there is the falling from grace. that happened at the end of that civilization as well. So some of the things I'm here to talk about, just kind of as a precursor, is yes, Atlantis really does exist, and other realities. Yes, all these things happened in the scientific community and technology, which we'll get into. But what I'm really here to help heal is the concept of the fall. Okay, so we have this idea of a fall being a terrible thing. We fell for grace in the Garden of Eden, for example. And that wound has stayed with humanity for a very, very long time. And shame and guilt, right? Through the fall from grace in Eden, and even the fall from grace in Atlantis, is a concept that I'm here to shift. So as I take you through the great kingdom of Atlantis and describe in my remembrance of it, I hope anybody who is listening here will remember the beauty and the splendor and the gorgeousness and the community and the feeling of oneness that absolutely did exist on the onset of Atlantis. Atlantis was an experiment. Prime Creator, in the last incarnation of Atlantis, decided to try again to bring beings down in a third dimensional body and see if they could retain their fifth dimensional consciousness. Okay, so it was this experiment that we all agreed to, all the Atlantean community agreed to come down in a third dimensional body, have our five senses, which they had never had before, right?
Really?
And
what?
yeah, in spirit form, there's not the drinking of the water and the eating of the food and the making love
got you.
in the way we get to do when we're human. That's one of the best things about being human, right? So all these volunteers from all these star systems said, yes, we'll go. We'll do this experiment called human. And I know we can hang on to our fifth dimensional consciousness because we remember we are one. We're going to remember that even though, human things might come up that take us off our oneness with the Creator. So the Atlantean community was the last incarnation of Atlantis. The community came down, okay, through, and my feeling is they came from, ships. Most of them agreed to come down and do kind of like a beam me up or beam me down, Scotty, type of a thing on Earth. And these beautiful Atlanteans appeared in Atlantis. They called it something else. They didn't call it Atlantis. It's a word that can't quite be pronounced, but they had a name for it. Okay. And so they're in awe and wonder of their human bodies and their human selves and their, the ability to taste, see, taste, touch, smell, hear. And remembering that they are a community, a utopian community, meant to hold that integrity in. So the job of the Mer people, we love the Atlanteans. We absolutely were fascinated by the Atlanteans. We were there in every incarnation. We saw them as a sister to community to us. And, when the last experiment of Atlantis was developed, I agreed to be kind of like a liaison. Someone who would come up out of the water as Mer, shapeshift, grow feet and legs, and then work in the temples and work with the Atlanteans to help them kind of learn to be human, more or less. And so I remember coming up in front of the Temple of Poseidon, and I have a past life regression around this. I would shapeshift, and I got these long, pointy feet. They weren't pretty feet. And I would try and walk on the land, and my legs were kind of very, weak and not stable, and come up to help the humans. We loved the human bodies. We loved how they could run fast. We loved how they could skip, how they could jump. And we wanted to take part in that as much as we could, because of course, with a tail, you can't do all those kinds of things. So my part of my job was to work in the Temple of Poseidon in the underground caverns and teach energy healing, chakra healing, 13 chakra healing to the Atlanteans.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Were the Mer people there before Atlantis was created?
The Mer people always were. We came at the very beginning of Earth. We came from Mintaka, the blue water planet. We fell to Earth with the liquid plasma light that would eventually come the first earth waters.
Okay. So where is Mintaka in the solar system? Is it in our solar system?
It's the westernmost star in Orion's belt.
And so is Mintaka a singular star where
Yes.
all of the Mer people have come from? That's what you're saying.
I would say the majority of them are people. I believe that there are some other star systems that are available as homes for the Mer as well. But Mintaka was kind of like the big hub that originally seeded the Earth.
So in Mintaka, are the beings all Mer people, and is it a liquid planet completely?
It's a liquid plasma light planet is the best I can, like amniotic fluid. There are other sea creatures there as well, dolphin-like creatures and others also that are on Mintaka, but it's mainly made up of, various types of Mer people.
So is it like male and female Mer people?
Yes.
Okay, there are only two sexes, two genders?
Some can come as androgynous if they like. But it is predominantly, you kind of get to decide when Mer people are born, we get to decide.
Okay.
The baby gets to decide.
Right. And there was some dolphin type. Do you mean actual dolphins, not just dolphin type?
Dolphin, I would say dolphin type. And when the dolphins came, they evolved just like everything else does.
So what else was there? Seahorses, whales, like what else was there in the waters?
There were a lot of creatures that we don't have on this planet. So I would say even more like kind of alien looking octopus or octopi type of creatures, very different than what we have on Earth. I don't remember a lot of like traditional or typical water creatures or water cetaceans. They were more what's the word? Primal? Prehistoric? It might be called. Yeah.
Wow. So who and what created Mintaka and all the beings?
Mintaka came from the aqua ray.
The aqua ray. What's the aqua ray?
The aqua ray. So there are many, many rays that are available to us. So when the first original 144,000 souls fell to Earth, and this is my knowledge of the 144,000, and out of the one came the two, the Vesica Pisces, the duality, and the 144 souls were birthed through the center point of that. There is some kind of connection to the gold ray, the violet ray, and the aqua ray that happened through that initiation. And Mintaka came through the aqua ray. I wish I had more information in exactly what that means. That's just the intel that I've been given, is that we came from the aqua ray.
Okay. I can't believe how many interruptions there are. It's crazy. Is your phone ringing?
Nope.
So this is fascinating. I mean, I need to probe because I'm imagining that, I'm a complete neophyte and I know nothing of this. And people really want to know the science behind it, the proof behind it, how it all blends and bonds together. And, I would ask, not knowing, where do the rays come from?
The prime creator. The easy answer to that is prime creator.
Which is the greatest, like, let's just stick it over there. So being the prime creator, being God, what we would call God, or what some people would call God, the creator source.
Right.
Okay. All right. So on this plasma planet of all you Mer people and different sea beings, etc., that became more evolved in the oceans on the planet, as you said, what was the culture like in Mintaka? Were there buildings? Was there food? Like, they're not just swimming around, and like, what was it?
So liquid plasma light, so thinking about an amniotic type of fluid, we did imbue some kind of a substance that grew within the plasma. It was a vegetarian, what we would call vegetarian, meaning not animal, type of sustenance. Life there was utopian, peaceful, serene, beautiful, magical, soft, friendly. A complete love planet. I had my mate. We also Mintakan beings. We kind of live. I don't want to say forever, but they're essentially eternal beings until they decide not to be.
Mhm. Where would they go at that point? Where does their spirit or their soul go?
Where, you know, wherever they decided, whatever kind of experience they wanted to have, maybe we would kind of recycle and go back and be birthed through another, you know, set of twins on Mintaka, twins meaning male, female.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'd come back through and decide instead of being male or female, we would be androgynous in this experience.
Right. How do mer people make love and have babies?
So mer people, the merging is very energetic. It's an energy center lineup. We have energy centers, not quite like chakras, but kind of like chakras. We have our own version of energy centers. They do have male and female body parts that come together and meet also. So there is an actual physical merger as well as an energetic merger.
So there's like a penis and a vagina or
exactly.
Something. Right. Okay.
Right. Something that can put something else into the female.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from Mintaka down into the oceans, that the blue plasma fluid has actually created the oceans, you're saying.
Right.
So did other of the beings, the animals, the dolphins, etc., come down with the mer people onto the earth to create the oceans?
I remember the dolphins coming. Variation of the dolphin. Okay, so the mer people, we don't look the same as like in the movies and the cartoons. We don't look like the beautiful pictures. We look very different than that. Dolphins also, at one time, the dolphins on our planet evolved into the variations or versions of the dolphins that you see now. They looked much more prehistoric, I guess is the best way to put it. And we know at one time the earth was fully covered in water.
Incredible. Did I ask you on Mintaka what the buildings and structures, like how people lived? Did they live in temples and houses and, you know, like beautiful places? Did they sleep?
It was much more like you had, okay, I'm just going to call it a cave, a cavern, a very simple space. You know, remember we're in liquid plasma. We don't really need much, don't really require much. We just had our, you know, our caverns or our dwellings that were very simple that we existed in. There wasn't a need for, you know, temples and buildings. We had spaces on the planet that we would go to, open spaces that would be considered a temple, not a building, but a space where we would go for, you know, birthing centers. There was a birthing center, birthing temple. There are places we would go and meet and congregate. So there are all these different little areas, but it wouldn't be like the traditional buildings like we think of. Merlantis had buildings though.
Okay. How would the babies be born?
So the babies would come through the mother.
How?
There was an opening, the same opening where, you know, the penis would inject. There would be an opening where the babies would come out. Very easy and painless for the mother. The mother and the child were totally in communication. She knew exactly who she was bringing in. The father and father knew exactly who they were bringing in because there was an agreement with that soul. That baby get to decide what kind of a gender it got to be. And there was like communication, and the gestation period, I remember not being very long.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. When the baby come out, does it have an umbilical cord?
The baby would come out, didn't need an umbilical cord because, again, it existed in that liquid plasma light, and it would absorb nutrients straight through its sac from the mother.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Just absorb it in, and the baby would come and be, you know, fully formed. And there was breastfeeding though. There was that idea of putting your mer baby against your skin and against your breast, and a fluid coming to nourish them.
Okay. Wow. All right. So now we're on Earth. Now you're in Merlantis, and yes. Atlantis is being created. How and who created Atlantis?
So, okay, good question. It was a combined, so the last 13,000 years that I remember, the last incarnation was a collaboration between the energy we call Prime Creator, okay, and also Archangel Metatron was very instrumental in co-creating the last community of Atlantis. And he
Really?
did that through sacred geometry. He was very, very much a part of that.
Interesting. And anyone that hasn't heard of Archangel Metatron, he is Elijah from the Bible, or Enoch?
Enoch.
Enoch.
Yes.
And so Enoch became Metatron.
Yes.
And Elijah became Sandalphon.
Correct.
And they're the only two angels out of the whole realms whose names do not end with an EL, for Michael, Raphael, Jophiel, Haniel, etc.
Which means
Okay.
Of God.
Of God, or close
Yeah.
to God, yeah, or the Elohim. Brilliant. All right, that's great. Okay, so now we're on, so now Metatron is very involved, geometry, sacred geometry,
Yes.
his cube, etc., in blueprinting and mapping out this
Yes.
city for this. I mean, what is your understanding of how big Atlantis is? It wasn't just a little place in Santorini, Greece. I know that.
Yeah. It was
stretched.
enormous. It was enormous. Just a massive, massive continent. And also made up of little islands also. So it wasn't just one landmass. There were also little islands that made up Atlantis as well. So sacred geometry, we would teach the people, he would teach the Mer, who would teach the people to plant their gardens and say a seed of life formation or a flower of life. Because those geometric imprints have a vibrational frequency that would help their crops grow up into their fullness.
What kind of crops would they grow in Atlantis?
It would be something that you would refer to as like a superfood. So anything that we now consider, moringa is a superfood, chlorella, all those deep greens, all those earthy supplements. I don't know that it was exactly moringa, but it was something like that. So they took in a very light, high vibrational food. The Atlanteans really didn't need dense food. Their body didn't require that at the time because of their constitution. And they knew to grow very vibrational. They prayed over their crops. They sang to them. They put their hands in their spit in the earth, to put their essence in there. And everything was extremely consciously looked after.
Where did the Atlantean people come from? Who created them?
They came from they were volunteers essentially. So every star system who wanted to send a volunteer, or if you came from a place that wanted to and you wanted to volunteer, there was a long list of people who wanted to come and take part in this experiment. Okay.
All right. So I'm fascinated to understand, when you were in Merlantis as a mermaid with a full-blown tail, that when you came up to the land, you were able to shapeshift. Yes. And you were able to grow feet. So do you remember that process? What did it feel like? Was it mental? What was that? How did you do that?
It was just kind of like a will. So how we're taught, the mind is strong and we can co-create and manifest and do this and that and regenerate our bodies. If we really if we really understood how powerful our mind was, we could heal and change our body. The Mer knew how to do that. We just knew how to, again, regrow limbs if we needed to. We knew how to change our bodies. And this was actually an agreement that I and other Mer made between Prime Creator, that we would do this. Not all Mer wanted to do it or chose to do it. It was just those of us who wanted to come up on and be human for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Was there constant contact with the galactics?
Our contact was more with the essence of the ocean and listening to the essence of the water and what that element taught us to do for them. So it's like somebody spoke to the water, maybe Prime Creator, maybe the galactics, and that's how we got our instructions. So it was something that came through the water and was known to us. Because remember, sound travels in water. Water carries memory, right? Water holds the memory and information of everything that has ever happened on this planet since its conception. All water is original water. The same water you're drinking and that you'll later sweat out or pee out is going to go back up to the clouds and come recycled back down to Earth. So water records every single thing on this planet. So there was a recording in the water from the galactics that we could receive and be told what needed to happen.
And do you know what galactics put that recording into the water?
I feel like Arcturians were a really big part of it. I think there was a Mintankan consciousness also that gave us instructions, but mostly it was just a feeling of, it's like you would just tune into the water and you would just know what needed to be done that day, that week, that month. And we didn't really care that much about who the transmission was coming from. We were just there to receive the instructions and to go.
This might sound like an odd question, but I bet a couple of people are wondering, as the children grow into and come into puberty, would the girls have periods?
We didn't have, the beings there didn't have the traditional like body chemistry changes. Remember, mer beings live a very, very, very long time. So it was kind of like a male or a female would just decide they're ready to go to the next level or ready to go to the next, what do you call that, phase in life. Ready now to have a body that would prepare me to one day have children. And it was very seamless and very easy.
Wow, I can imagine a lot of women watching this thinking, damn it, I wish I'd been a mermaid.
Yeah, right? No periods.
Absolutely. What a blessing that would have been for all the women in the world, bar none. Wow, this is crazy. Okay. So continue, just keep flowing. Atlantis building, you're communing with the people there. They're from all over the cosmos. And what else can you share that we wouldn't know?
Okay, so, well, a little bit more about the mer bodies, because they were in full command of their bodies and full like understanding of the physiology of their bodies. We again could morph and change and do what we needed to at whatever phase of life we wanted to move into. There was a little bit of like a ritual we would do with Prime Creator around, I'm ready for this next, but it wasn't like, you know, humans go through so much and there's so much drama in the human body. And it wasn't like that for us. And that's one of the things I really miss about my mer body is how easy it was to navigate and how comfortable it was to be in our mer form. We didn't like get cut like humans do and have to like go to the doctor and have things mend. It was a little different story when we were on land. We were a little bit more what you would call vulnerable because we were taking on, you know, this different form and we were in different elements. You were with the earth element, you were with the fire, you know, you were with the air, and you were with, you know, these buildings that were very different and this topography that was very different than what we were used to. My legs were very, very, they weren't as strong as human legs because they just couldn't be, because it was a shape-shifting type of form. And so I had to be careful not to trip. I had to be careful not to, you know, I had these weird kind of strange looking feet. I had to be careful not to stub them or to run into things.
Can you describe what they look like, the feet?
You know, the first time I saw them in a regression, I was like, kind of like, ew, those are my feet. Those aren't cute.
Yeah.
They were long and thin and came out to a long, thin triangle point.
So no toes.
No toes. But they just couldn't quite form like, you know, a human foot is developed in a way with the 5 toes to be able to you know, to be on the earth and to track on the earth. And we could, for some reason, we couldn't quite get that version of feet quite right. So we came as close as we could.
Brilliant. That's just amazing. Amazing. Okay, million questions going through my mind, but I just want you to kind of naturally share what else you would feel that would benefit everybody who's got a fascination for this.
So it might be important to talk about what mer people actually look like. There are many, many varieties of mer people, and really none of us look like those beautiful mermaids in contemporary paintings. We look more fish-like. more the kind of bulbous head, big eyes. Most of us have hair, but not all of us have hair. You know, the fins, the gills, the things. You would look at a real life mer person and you might go, oh, that's not what I envisioned at all. But we think, but we think we are beautiful.
Beautiful, of course, of course.
Yes. Yes. And so, you know, when you see, you know, these variations in these movies of the mer who would come up and be very scary looking or very odd looking, it's because that there are varieties of mer people that look like that. The ones who would come up and be beautiful to the sailors were because we didn't want to scare them.
Right, right.
You know, you come up looking at like that to some sailors, maybe you're trying to help out. They're going to be terrified. They might kill you.
Yeah. So just on that for a moment, that obviously the legends of the sirens, the beautiful
Yes.
mer ladies that would then entice
Yes.
the sailors and look so beautiful and then turn into wretched monsters and kill them. What say you about that?
Okay, so this is my theory on that. So in Atlantis, there were a lot of experiments, genetic experiments. And I actually have a variation of myself, an aspect who took part as a scientist doing genetic experiments on creatures to see what would happen. And we did it in the name of science. And that's how we justified it. And so
a bit like now.
Part of my, and I read a story of that in a Dolores Cannon book and someone's accounting, and I burst into tears because I knew I had done that. Mm-hmm. I knew that there was an aspect of me who had committed horrible atrocities on some of the beings in Atlantis, merging them together just to see what would happen. And part of my karma and dharma in this life is to kind of balance that and right that by doing the work that I'm doing.
Now, on that very thing, sorry, because it's so important, there's a book I read years ago in the 90s. It was called The Only Planet of Choice. And there's a lot of information on what was being channeled through a council of 9. Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, was very much involved in this book and some of the channelings too.
Yes.
There was a thinking that as Atlantis was going down, it was taken down because of the evil fuckery, very much like today on our planet, the evilness, the disgusting, hideous experiments they did, merging human DNA with fish DNA. They say in that book, that is where the Mer people came from. And also the dolphins are the last adults, the good people, the good Atlanteans that didn't deserve to die. So they decided to take on another shape, because the whole of that structure across thousands of miles was going to be taken down. And also Lemuria. It is said, and you need to tell if it's true, that the filament that was protecting Lemuria came down because the Atlanteans decided, we're taking you out. So please just take your time speaking to those things.
So yes, to the idea that some of the Atlanteans shapeshifted into dolphins and swam away. Yes. I do want to go back and talk about the Fall of Atlantis and the concept and the thoughts behind it, just like you spoke about the experiments and things like that. What was I explaining to you? Oh, the sirens. Okay, this is my theory on this is what I know to be true about the origin of mermaids, because there is a myth that we were all scientific experiments. That's not true. There were mer fish crossing experiments. And, you know, anytime you try to put something together genetically and create a new consciousness, because it's not of God, because it's not organic, it's not going to be quite right. Because man cannot replicate the organic in nature, that intelligence. So those mer that came through Atlantis had a distortion. How could they not, right? They were created inorganically, and they were created with an intention, not of love and honoring for that creature. So in my knowingness, the quote sirens and the stories that we hear were those surviving mer people who were created through an inorganic experience. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. It's another theory. And again, we're not going to know the 100,000,000% absolute truth for each individual person until it's actually shown for themselves. But putting together some of the pieces this way is really, really important.
Right. Do you remember that Stephen King movie years ago called Pet Sematary?
Yeah.
And you would have your pet die and you could take it to the cemetery and it would be resurrected back to life, but it was not the same. The life force, the purity of it was gone and replaced with something inorganic and actually rather terrifying.
Yeah.
These pets who would come back. So it was kind of like that.
The zombified frequency.
Yeah.
The emotionless, the soulless,
soulless
entity, whatever it looks like. Crazy. Can you just speak just for a little bit to Lemuria, because those that love the two and those that love Lemuria, they'll really want to know, like I do.
Okay, so there was a time when Lemuria and Atlantis existed together. They were they on the same timeline, side by side, as sister communities. Lemuria the feminine, Atlantis the masculine. They kind of held that balance. And most people are aware that the Lemurians were very earth-centered, very simple, not simple-minded, but just simple in the way that they understood the symbiotic nature between God and life, and that's all that was important to them. They understood that, they lived that, they knew that if they wanted to continue on as a species, that the honoring and that connection with nature was first and foremost. The Atlantean community, on the other hand, became very scientific driven, very technologically driven, and very ego driven. And in my remembrance, this was the third incarnation of Atlantis when this happened. Okay, there was a war between them because the scientific Atlanteans felt themselves superior to the very holistic Lemurians. And we see that reenacting itself, we've seen that reenacting itself out in the world anyway, between
Nazi
indigenous
Germany.
cultures,
yeah,
and those who think that they are superior or, no superior to these, these Aboriginal people who are one with the land. So when the Atlanteans decided to take over the Lemurian community and enslave them, and they actually tricked them on many levels, there was a great war that came out. And in my perception, what I was told that, when they went to war, because each one of them was designed to hold a balance, feminine, masculine, when that broke apart, that on a microcosmic level created the cosmic split in humanity between our masculine, feminine on a microcosmic level. So this macrocosmic event that didn't just affect Atlantis and Lemuria, because remember, all these beings were from all these other star systems all across universes and galaxies. So when that microcosmic event happened in humanity, the split between our masculine and feminine and the oneness between that's when that split occurred. And we've been trying to get back to that unification ever since.
Have you met anyone in a human vessel, but who you know to be a real high grade Atlantean who's doing a different, purpose to you?
A different purpose than what was put upon what he or she did in Atlantis?
No, like say you've come here to help with the awakening and the remembering and sharing what the Mer People are. But have you met anybody who is like on a different level or has a bigger mission than you to do something? Do you recognize them completely?
Well, a bigger mission, I've met people who have all kinds of Atlantean missions. In my mind, there's no bigger or smaller. Everybody just has their part to play. Everybody just has their job to do. I have mine that is mine, and it's whatever, but I don't consider mine bigger or smaller. It's just what I'm here to do. If you talk about a big mission, it might be somebody who has like to overcome some really, enormous 3D, technology, scientific, whatever. but we're all here doing our part, and it really takes all people bringing their pieces of the puzzle together to help it all, to help it all happen.
Absolutely.
Mine feels big to me because it's because it just feels big.
Yeah,
To a human, it feels like, wow, this is really big. But on the grand scheme of things, it might be like, minuscule compared to somebody else's journey.
Yeah. Can you, you mentioned back in Atlantis, the Temple of Poseidon.
Yes.
We also are aware of the being Neptune.
Yes.
Can you describe to us, I was kind of alluding to that, like, have you met, there's so many people that say, I am the king of Atlantis, the only one. Of course, that would be ridiculous.
Yes.
There were many, many, many.
Yeah.
Or I'm the queen of Atlantis, or I rule, or I've come back to claim my kingdom on earth, or anything like that. But have you met somebody who said, I am Poseidon?
Okay, so that's a great question to a past life regression therapist, because in my understanding of how souls work, that for instance, my oversoul is the ocean goddess Yemaya. Yemaya is the African mother goddess of the fishes, and I am part of her soul stream here to bring forth certain messages and information that we've agreed to. But I know I'm not the only one. There are many women incarnated on this planet who identify with the oversoul of Yemaya. I just happen to be lucky enough to be one of them. So anytime I hear somebody saying, I was the king of Atlantis, okay, yes, you probably have an aspect of you that carries that soul stream or that message or that remembrance or whatever it is. But there's going to be 20, 30 of 50 other people that I regress them. If they're part of that soul stream, they're going to remember that too. So human ego gets in the way, thinking I am the one and only. Well, first of all, if you are the literal incarnation of a god or a goddess, you better be throwing down some big ass miracles.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Now, if you're the only Mary Magdalene, you better be freaking throwing down some big ass miracles here if you're going to claim that.
Yes, you lazy cow. I mean, I've met like 15 of them at this point,
yes. Yes.
So I want to say that you mentioned Yemanya, or you pronounced it differently. What is the correct pronunciation?
There are different pronunciations depending on what land. If you're Brazil, if you're African, if you're American, Yemaya.
Okay. So, and I'm glad we need to raise this point, because again, this is about education. People get on a spiritual path, they learn about all the great goddesses.
Yes.
And then, like for me, I learned that Yemanya was the most exciting water goddess for the Brazilians.
Yes.
So, okay, because you mentioned Africa. I heard you say Africa.
She originates from Africa. That's where her story, her mythology, but also the Brazilians, they have a huge affinity for her also.
Yes.
Her celebration day is December 31st. So on December 31st, and then the African celebration day for her is February 2nd, which we just had. So I honor her both of those dates and do an offering, do an offering to the water. But yeah, she's a pretty big deal in Brazil as well.
Right, because I've been telling people for years, if they get that card, if I do a reading and they get that card, I've been talking about the Brazilian mythology, but that's down to Doreen Virtue getting her information out. And, I don't remember. I mean, maybe I'll have to go back and read the book, but that's the deck I have, a Doreen Virtue deck of goddess cards. And is very much part of that. Okay, brilliant. All right. So how do you celebrate in this day and age the part of the fractal aspect of that being that you feel that you are?
I gave her an offering. Her totems are white flowers, silver coins, and she likes pomegranates. So sometimes I can't get pomegranates, but I'll get some fresh pineapple and seashells, of course. And 7 is her number for the 7 seas. She wears blue and white like the waves. So I'll dress in her colors, and I'll find 7 silver coins and find 7 white flowers and get 7 pieces of fruits together and maybe a little chocolate, because she likes chocolates as well, and some shells, and do, I have some bells that I ring, and I do just a calling out to her, and, just a gratitude, and call to her essence and call to the water, and then give those items. I can even send you a little picture of one of the little offerings that I did in a triangle to her, and offer those at the water's edge.
That's lovely. So of course, this very strictly religious person of the Western world who's been hardwired and programmed and brainwashed into thinking one thing would listen to that and look at that as a completely worshipping something idolatrous, you know. And these are obviously the things that we're purposely discussing, breaking down, taking away all of the hierarchical structure, the mechanics that do not work, have not worked, have completely failed, and that everyone's welcome to share love in their own way without cursing or criticizing another. They do not have the right, and they never did.
Right.
Because all nation stations, all variations of religious practice and awareness and you know, worshiping or giving love to the gods, the goddesses, whatever they are for people is completely
well. And
allowed.
let's take it one step further. So when I talk about a mother goddess who dresses in blue and white, who from Christianity comes to mind?
Well, Mary,
Mother Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So she was when Christianity, you know, came up and essentially broke down the pagan religions. They just took her imagery. And Yemaya is known as the star of the sea. Mary is Mar, which is ocean, and Mother Mary became the Catholic deity and Queen of the Heavens.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it all links together.
Yeah, it does. Every single religion links together. Every single major religion has the exact same blueprint, the same trinity, the same story with different names.
The same plagiarization sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my God, what a marketing job to each generation to say, right, now it's going to be this, now it's going to be that. I know it's really sad that people don't en masse have all of this education that given to them, like knowledge just handed to them and said, listen, this might piss you off, but you know, this religion's the same as this, and this is why, and they've been thousands of years before the Christ, and you know, so I mean, it's all beautiful. Every religion, I believe, has its beauty. I really do believe everyone
love Mother Mary. Beauty. Like, of course, I was raised Catholic, so that, you know, the saints and the archangels still very, very dear to me. But I've learned to appreciate the different aspects and emanations, and you know, working directly with the Mother Sea Goddess aligns with the truth of who I am.
Yeah. No, I love her too. She's got a place in my heart. So Poseidon and Neptune, who are they? What are they? Where did they come from?
Poseidon, Neptune, essentially same being, different name because different cosmologies. And I consider Poseidon, or you know, the being known as Poseidon, that energy, as my beloved or my partner in spirit. Yes,
Poseidon's your guy.
Literally and not literally. So literally meaning, yes, I identify because my origin is water, my soul is water, and he's the god of the waters. That is my beloved partnership in spirit. And I know that one day when I meet my literal counterpart, he will be an aspect of Poseidon / Neptune. He will be of that soul stream.
Okay. So this is what we need. Otherwise, it just sounds loony and bonkers, like crazy town. You know, it's like you sitting there saying, no, my lover is Poseidon. And you know, there's 50 million other women out there saying the same thing. But
I'm not jealous.
Yeah, no, why would you be?
Right.
It's funny, isn't it? I know, but again, it's important because again, when people start going on this spiritual journey, they start having all these different ideas and fantasies, and it's very dangerous. And there's not enough sensible people. I've never seen enough sensible people looking after people.
Yeah.
Not that I'm superior. I'm still learning. We all still evolve and learn. But it's always bothered me that people, they start discovering things, they're so excited, they're having this awakening and this awareness, and they're not taken care of properly. They're not the hand holding. It's okay, darling, it means this, that you are seeing this, but actually it's more the aspect, the fractal.
This is part of what happens. People come into their awakening, they start coming into themselves, they're reading books, they're learning these things, and they're hearing voices in their head, and they're getting instructions from spirit. And when the ego gets involved and there's not good discernment, or you don't maybe have somebody guiding you through experience. I know people who have been told, you are the literal embodiment of me, and I am Archangel so-and-so, or I am God, Goddess so-and-so. And they believe that they are the literal, because they're told from not, either you're working from with the divine energy of something, or the reversal, or a lesser energy. Okay, when we're working with a divine, true divine, eternal essence of something, it won't try to stroke our ego. It won't try to insert itself into our human experience, right? And take over our human experience. It will be like, you got the body, you got free will. I am here on assignment to be a helper, a messenger to you. And if you will be willing to align with my messages and my teachings, I will help you on your mission, but you get your body, you get your autonomy, you get your free will.
Just a quick story on somebody believing themselves to be Mary Magdalene. Years ago, I went to this man. There was like 30 people in this house in Carlsbad. And my beautiful friend, Nita Rierson, who was the best clairvoyant, the best medium. She's now in a different place, bless her. She was one of my best friends, and I learned so much from her. Beautiful, love you, Nita. Anyway, we went to this thing, and there was a man there, very sweet little man. He reminded me of Richard Dreyfuss, you know, from Jaws, the first and second Jaws. Remember him, the actor?
Yep.
And he got very active, actually, spiritually, for a while, and maybe still is. Anyway, we go in the front door of this house, and there's this absolutely gorgeous girl from Australia, brown, beautiful hair to the shoulders, big eyes. Remember, she had really large, beautiful, curvy hips, like really unusual, kind of voluptuous, beautiful girl. And as we came in the front door, she was hugging everyone, and I'm such a hugger. I'll hug you all day long. So I gave her a big hug, and then I felt something extra. So sometimes you just hug a bit longer. Not everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't like the, you know, oh, we're all spiritual. Let's do the really long, uncomfortable hug. No, thanks. You know, those people that just stand there hugging for minutes. Great. If that's you, I respect that, but that's not me. But I will hug you hard and squeeze you. And then if I feel there's a bit more, I'll rub your back. And that's what I was doing with this girl. I was like really linking in with her, like, wow, she's really interesting. She's super loving. Wow. And then it kind of went on a little bit too long. And I was kind of like, you know, just moved away. And then we went into thought nothing of it until we all sit down. And then Richard Dreyfuss, lookalike, I can't remember his name, and I wouldn't actually say it because I don't want to shame anybody. It's not fair. And we're all on our journey, and we all make mistakes, and we all lie and cheat and bollocks up. But he turned and he said, when you all came in the front door and you hugged Magdalena, or whatever her name was, you were actually hugging Mary Magdalene, and she gave you back your higher self. And inside I'm thinking, oh, shut up, shut up. Like nobody took my higher self from me. That's just no. So anyway, so people start crying. They're all swept up. Like there was kind of a mass hysteria, mass hypnosis thing going on. Yeah. And again, my heart just went to them. And I'm not better. I'm not. I just thought, I'm not buying that shit. I'm not buying it. I've been seeing things my whole life. I'm done. I'm done getting caught.
Who are they to tell you you're separate from your higher self?
Right. You got it back today. Well done. Billions of people do not have. They need to hug Mary Magdalene herself in this body. Like it's just so ridiculous. Yeah. And if you're offended, that's something to look at, guys. It's not about me. It's just sharing help for the people that could fall into these traps. Okay. And cults or whatever. Ultimately, every religion is a cult. That's a definition of cult. It's a group thinking with a group guidance that everybody follows. So there's no difference. It just sounds like a bad word to anybody who isn't Christian or isn't Catholic. Right. Anyway, this man recognized that I wasn't like buying in. I wasn't crying or wailing or flapping around on the floor. Forgive me. You know, so he looked at me and he went, hey. I went, hello. And he said, you and me, we were bombing around in space on our spacecraft. Yeah, we were. I remember you. And he said, you need to watch the movie V. I said, okay, I'll watch it. Anyway, I watched it. I didn't relate at all. I just think he was just trying to big me up and boost me and bring me in. He fed my ego and told me I'm really special, like galactic girl. you know, which I actually am, but that's not the galactic part I was. And so these are the things, guys, to look out for, these traps, the big ego, like, oh, come and play with me. I will ascend you to the 20th level of the ascended masters. And we've got to be so more than ever careful, more than ever right now, is this whole, for me, the collapsing of all the earth structures, the same situation as far as I'm concerned on many levels to Atlantis. What do you think about that?
There are definitely parallels happening. We are course correct. So when I see time, we all know it's not linear. It's in a spiral, right? Layers and layers. So there's a spiral of time where Atlantis fell, and then there's a spiral of time that we're existing on now simultaneously, because everything's happening simultaneously. And this is a very oversimplified description, but just to try and make it easy for everybody to understand. Simultaneously, two lines of time paralleling each other, trying to create a new outcome on this line of time, because the outcome on this line of time had a ripple effect and a reverberation that changed everything forever. Okay, essentially, the Atlanteans and those who mess with Atlantis kind of fucked themselves during the fall of Atlantis. So here we are, we're actually doing the reverse. Instead of going from third dimensional beings, and keeping our fifth dimensional consciousness, we're third dimensional beings, bringing God into the third dimension. Okay, we are instead of trying to go out and get God, we're bringing God here where we're at and becoming fifth dimensional beings in a third dimensional body, right? Okay, so what that means is there's no escaping being human. As much as I love the idea of the rapture, I'm probably not going anywhere. I probably get to be here for a while in this human body and learn how to be what we would call an ascended being, I guess, right here as a 3D human, and love that. Okay, because it's a consciousness shift. Okay, so we are attempting, all of us here, to course correct the spiral of time where Atlantis fell and reverse the effects that reverberated out into all universes. So something happened on December 20th, 2021. Remember when we had the Grand Conjunction on the winter solstice, where Jupiter and Saturn came together and formed that great star configuration?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the central fugal center point where we reverse, we went through that hole and we are reversing now that spiral of Atlantis. Okay, so we're reversing, we went down, 13,000 years, went through that centrifugal point, and now we're unwinding it, creating a different outcome. It's not going to take 13,000 years, which is the good news. Okay, it's unraveling and winding really, really quickly, as what we can see, and what looks like a dismantling. Okay, everything's got to fall apart, right? It's all got to come down, all the illusions, all the lies, all of it, including maybe even a lot of lives, human lives, people who are on this planet, might have to fall with the truth coming out. Every soul here has a soul path, a soul agreement, soul groups, soul families. Yours is a little different than mine. Whatever you're contracted here to do, as far as a soul, how long you're going to be here is between you and God. What I'm supposed to do and however long I'm supposed to be here is between me and God. 8 billion people on this planet have their own contract with God, as well as their soul families and soul groups. Okay, so as we see groups of peoples, communities of peoples, continents of peoples, I don't know, not being here anymore, okay, we need to remember that this is not a punishment, that this is not, that we are eternal beings on an assignment here. There is no death. And as the changes come on this planet, and I believe we're going to return to a water planet. That's what I believe.
Do you?
Yep. I believe that many land masses will fall and some will rise as Atlantis literally rises again. And with that, people will finish in their soul contracts and soul agreements. I don't believe that only specific special people get to go through the doorway and ascend. That's not what I believe.
Absolutely. The biggest lie, the shame, the guilt
Yes.
Do this, tithe your money, do this, and you'll get an entrance. Wicked, wicked, wicked.
Some of us are
Wicked.
contracted to go in this life. Some will come back for another lifetime or 2 or 3, and they'll do it then because their soul chooses to have more experiences in karmic earth.
Right.
This is completely a soul choice. It's not a who's good, who's bad, who's right, who's wrong. It is who has decided to do what. And if we are here going through the door of ascension, that's even a weird word to me. It's because we've decided here and do whatever work was required for ourselves and for humanity to help that to happen in this lifetime. Other people just want to play for a while. They're like, you know what? I'm not done.
Yeah. So I got a couple of things here in this wonderful kind of, I want to give people a little bit of a second to like try and compute that, because some of the information that you just shared there is going to be a bit difficult and upsetting. We don't want to upset you. We just want to have a conversation about all the different ways we can look at navigating life and learning more about some of the things that some of the beliefs out there. I want to do a shout out to Tamara. Hi, Tamara. Now, Tamara is your friend that you work with. And guys, it was so amazing. This beautiful lady, Tamara, she came to me for a private one-to-one session. And during that session, I felt the energy. I don't actually remember. I'll ask her because I'm going to do a broadcast with her and Ameera Atlantis next week as well. But Tamara has tons and tons of Andara crystals. So we're going to bring them on, show them to you guys. And Ameera the same has some. But I just wanted to acknowledge Tamara, to say that thank you. And she has incredible artwork. So many people have found their spiritual path, they're on it. And some of them are the most beautiful artists. They create, they put crystals together. And so many of these people that I know right now live on Kauai, where you live on Kauai. Now, there are people that believe that the physical island of Kauai, which is the furthest island away in the Hawaiian Islands, it's also known as the Garden Islands, people say that is the last stone of Lemuria that was taken down. And
the heart of Lemuria. Yeah.
What say you about that?
The heart of the Lemuria is that's what this island is known to be. All the Hawaiian Islands are very Lemurian. This happens to be, they say it's the hub. It's the Garden Island, and I know you've been here. And when you're here, you really have been transported. Yeah, it's to something place. pretty magical.
Yeah, it's so magical. Remember the first few times I went there to Kauai and was never heard of the Lemurians until I met them. But I'm going to save that story for I'm meeting. Well, I've been speaking already, but I've got a broadcast next Friday with a very powerful resonance for Lemuria, Mauta, from Huna Flash, House of Huna. We're going to share a lot of the Lemurian connections then. But just again, guys, to kind of give a round out here, I know a lot of you have been asking about Andara crystals, the Andaras. I got mine on Kauai, and you know the same lady I do. So there's just such a very small world. Jeannie from Dolphin Touch Center in Kauai. So a lot of things are coming together, as well as bringing people like Ameera Atlantis on for you to really kind of dive in and listen to what is a Mer person, how does she know she's Mer, what is the lineage, what is the star system, all of these things bringing in. You're also looking for tools. And so we're going to be bringing the Andaras in for you next week. Some of you have been emailing me, can I buy one? They are expensive, like they're not cheap. They're a few $100s. That's the reality of them. But just to let you know, that's coming. And then Tamara, who introduced Ameera and I, although when I went to look up Ameera, we were already Facebook friends. Again, just how those synchronicities happen. But Tamara will be bringing artwork with crystal infusion, just such pretty artwork next week, because I want to satisfy the audience that have been asking the questions to me. So I know that they know that there's more coming and they can have more connection. So many are like, I want to open up. I'm ready to awaken on my spiritual journey, not just the dogma and the hardship of what's happening, but really pushing through with their souls. And it's all very, very important. It's so important. So if you were to choose a landmass in the planet that we're currently on, that was most alike or partially left over from the time of Atlantis, which we know Atlantis, or we're told, was sunk Where would that be?
I would look at the Canary Islands. I would look at the Azores. I would look to the Sahara in Africa also.
And is there any kind of proof of these, these names you're suggesting?
I think the proof really lives more in lore and mythology and energy imprints. It's kind of commonly known, I guess, that the Canary Islands are known as Atlantis. When different scholars and people who have studied it have drawn maps, they have their own ideas of where they feel Atlantis might have been. The Atlantic side, definitely, and Lemuria, the Pacific side. I don't know that anybody can absolutely say 100% for sure, right? We know, that the Sahara Desert, for instance, was all covered in water at one time because there's seashells there. So there are so many mysteries on this earth that are unresolved. But I really do feel that Atlantis will literally rise from the depths of the ocean. Some of these land masses will come back up and we'll find answers,
They
to
already
some of these
have
mysteries.
been. Right.
Yeah.
They have been for years. There's islands in Hawaii, in the Hawaiian Islands, that are coming back out of the
Yeah.
ocean because our planet, she's already on tilt. It's already been happening. It's another cycle of regeneration. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing.
It is. I call it creative destruction. Create, destroy, recreate is the nature of God and life. Everything's created, and as a season is destroyed, and as a season is recreated. So these earth changes that we're having, everything is divine. I believe everything on this planet is happening through the divine hand of God. And as we see the seasonal changes, the earth changes, the climate changes, the topography changes, this is because we have all agreed to participate in this experiment once again to see what's possible. You can't have regeneration without a death. Can't have a rebirth without a death. So these changes are not to be feared. You're an eternal being. That's an important thing for people to know. We go forever, our soul does. This is just a little blip in time. And so whether your soul has decided to see the whole birthing of the new Atlantis through or not, you'll see it from somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And let's make the point that Atlantis isn't going to be like the new Earth, right? It's not going to be named Atlantis, or
No.
do you think it will be? Right. Okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
Checking.
Well, I mean, maybe part of it. Maybe
Right.
there'll be a landmass that will be named the new Atlantis.
Right. I don't want to upset Poseidon, who's at home watching on YouTube and getting really angry at the disrespect, the disrespect for his land. Sorry, Poseidon. Also, there's so much to say here. It's just crazy town, but wonderful and exciting. So glad you're here, and so glad that we're giving this information from your kind of firsthand, soul aspect, soul in a human body, true life experience. Yeah. And now you're teaching, you're sharing, you're helping in so many ways. I want to share a story that because there are many people who've seen things and dismiss them and think it's their imagination. And we've got to stop doing that. Let's just have fun. Let's just say, maybe I did see that, but I was programmed. Oh, you're a loony. Let's let go of that, guys, and just go back in your mind and have those memories, because this is all part of your own beautiful spiritual soul awakening. Mm-hmm. If you're not already on a spiritual path. I was on a beach in Coronado years ago, 15, 16, maybe 17 years ago, easily. And I'm sitting there, and there are these little kids playing. I'm sitting there, and they're playing whatever, and I'm just there, just taking in. It was a quiet day. It was a winter day, and there was no one on the beach. I'm sitting there, and I look out, and there's a man and a woman out in the ocean, and they're right 20 feet out where the pilot whales go along the Coronado Beach. It's also where the Navy SEALs do Buds Week. I mean, it's a proper, half the island is a military base, naval, military, nuclear submarines. You want to see technology? Coronado. To all the war machines flying in the air all the time. The guys that go through that extraordinary, the Navy SEALs, that training, I don't know if they all come from all over the world there. I'm sure there are other places, but that is one of the places, Coronado Island. I lived there for some years. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I see these two people. It's a man and a woman. The woman's out 20 feet out, and I know that's where the pilot whales go. And sometimes I see people rough swimming in the ocean, and a little girl sits beside me. She says, and I said, see those people out there? They are what we call rough swimmers, like rough sea swimmers, because they're like swimming in the ocean. They're swimming where the whales go up and down. And as I'm telling her that, I feel both of these people looking at me. With our tiny pupils, we can see such an extraordinary amount of vision, of landscape, of mass. And I know we're communicating. I know they can see me. The lady has got dark hair in a bun, beautiful. And I can't see, the waves are here. She's just this much out of the ocean. And the man is like this drop dead gorgeous, like, you know, Ken and Barbie. He looks like Ken from Ken and Barbie, right? Out there looking my way too. So I smiled and I waved, hello. And the next thing, they had a little communication together, and the woman went under the waves. And all of a sudden I got this panic. Where is she? Where is she? She wasn't coming up. She wasn't coming up. And I could feel myself like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the man, I would look to where the man was, the man's gone. But they're not coming up. All of a sudden, 5 feet from the shore, the woman pops up and she looks right at me. Then there's a little girl sitting near me. She looks right at me. She smiles. She turns around and she flips a giant tail behind her. Now, the crazy thing was, and I wasn't drunk, I don't do drugs, I've never done drugs, a bit of weed, that's it, wasn't doing it then. It was 2 p.m. As I noticed the tail flip, I couldn't believe my eyes, but what I saw was a pink and purple. I'm looking at something in another dimension. It wasn't a physical, but it was attached to her, and she made sure I saw it. The little girl sitting next to me went, oh, like that. And I said, what did you see? She said, is that a mermaid? And I said, what do you think? And she said, that's a mermaid. And I said, what color was her tail? And she said, silver. So she saw something completely different to me, but we saw the same thing, just in different dimensions, altered sense of reality. So that,
amazing,
you know, that,
amazing.
yeah, it's a true story. That happened. I stand by it. And so I know that, you know, there will be other people that go, okay, maybe that's what I saw then, that time, like for real, because we got to own our own memories. They've been wiped from us. They've been swiped from us. They've been shut down by bossy people that think they know better. And we all stand shoulder to shoulder, regaining, remembering all the different lifetimes that we've had, all the different experiences that we've had.
Yes.
How would you advise people if they have a sense of being potentially a mer person from a different incarnation? How would they connect to that mer part of themselves?
I would say, first of all, just admit to yourself that it could possibly be true. Like, just really own that your soul feels that, and don't be afraid or ashamed of that, or think it's silly, because we are multidimensional beings. We are so much more than we're taught and told when we come here. Okay. So your soul knows. Trust your soul. If you love fairies, if you love dolphins, if your soul has an affinity to that, you need to follow that, because that's your soul talking to you. Other ways you can go deeper. Anybody who wants to do a past life regression and go into those discoveries and those remembrance, that's a really wonderful tool for learning to trust your own inner guidance and what's coming from your soul to you, to teach you, to help you, you know, whatever you need. Yeah.
Yeah. Good advice. And people can come to you personally?
Yes.
On the
Yes,
island
absolutely.
of Kauai?
Oh, they can. Or I do long distance sessions, of course. I do Zoom and all of those things as well. And so we can meet by phone or by computer.
Right. And do you regress people? Do you take them into deep trance and hypnosis over the internet?
The hypnosis is a light to medium trance, and I teach my clients how to see. Meaning some people have preconceived notions that they're going to see maybe this movie in their head, or maybe they think they can't see. Maybe they think that they just can't go into that state of relaxing their subconscious and accepting an experience. So I'm very good at teaching people that it's a multi-sensory experience. You might get visuals, but I don't get any visuals. I have to go by sensing and feeling, which is harder than you get little pictures in your head, you know? And so I teach and train people from the beginning how to tune into their body and their own innate psychic abilities to be able to connect with their experience successfully. And we can all do it, every single one of us.
Thanks for saying that, because again, that is important. You know, sometimes we need a teacher or, you know, a therapist, a spiritual therapist or someone like that, past life regressionist, to take you to a certain level of your own awakening so you can safely feel safe with what you're doing. But you do not need to follow a guru. You do not need a leader. You do not need to be checking in, spending thousands and thousands of dollars, you know, unless you want to. Of course, there's always that option. But people get frightened sometimes of going on a journey because they're scared how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
You know? But
the most important thing we can do is learn to trust ourselves. Trust your soul. One of the really cool things I love about hypnosis is because it's you giving you information. You automatically like create those neurons in your brain, you know, and open up that capacity to remember how to do that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to give or, you know, share as a passing word to everybody? Because we are going to see you next week, but
you know, it's really important for me to share that the idea of a fall sounds really terrifying, and it sounds like we're real bad humans. Whether it's the fall from grace in the Garden of Eden that has, you know, plagued us through Christianity, through religion, or the fall of Atlantis that is associated with bad humans doing bad things and we didn't listen, and that shame and guilt. It's a concept. It's not truth. Okay. The truth is we've never fallen. The truth is we've never, ever been separated. These are stories that are in our conscious and our unconscious that we've carried in our bodies and carried in ourselves for far too long. So as I start to unravel the story of Atlantis, I like to share with people, it was an experiment. We added a variable, which was the dark, and the dark created a different outcome for the experiment. It wasn't because they were good, we were bad, they were bad, we were good. We're not evil beings. We're in a giant experiment. We're creators, we're experiencers. So when you can anchor into the truth, okay, that you are part of God having an experience in this body and you have free will and you're never, ever, ever separate, and you are your own guru and you are your own teacher, and you embody that self-love and that grace within yourself, it's a game changer.
You know, one of the biggest questions is, okay, so God made us all. Well, who made God? And something in the brain, right? That's the question that no one seems to have the answer to.
Yeah.
Because we are programmed, oh no, don't go there, don't go there, don't ask that question, oh no. Well, I'm asking it. So if anybody has the answer, please step forward. I'll interview you with the biggest joy in my heart.
Yeah, and in my humility, my humble self, I don't know.
Yeah. It's like you said, there's many ways to think about what this is. Is this an experiment? Are we inside a simulator, a simulation, a video game? There are lots of people that actually feel that way. Anyway, mermaids, mermen, Atlantis, Merlantis. Today, you guys, I hope that you've enjoyed spending time with Ameera Atlantis. Thank you so much, my darling, for sharing from the heart all of your wisdom and experience. It's absolutely wonderful. And next week I will be playing again with Ameera Atlantis and Tamra, who I mentioned earlier, and we're going to bring you again resources. We're going to bring you a whole selection of Andara crystals, because so many of you are asking for these. And we're going to bring you the artwork that Tamra makes, beautiful art pieces with crystals, like just imbued with love and just spirituality and dolphin energy and wave energy. And Ameera Atlantis actually has a clothing range that she infuses the crystalline essence of the Andara crystal into, right?
Yep.
So we will be sharing and bringing all of that to you next week. All right. So you happy with everything we've said? Was there anything just right now you think, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that?
You know, thank you for allowing me to express myself. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure too. You're more than welcome. This platform's for everyone. Mi channel, you channel. Like mi casa, su casa. If we don't all come together now and share everything, then I don't know when we will. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is it or it's not.
Yep.
Basically, definitely. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for spending more time with us here. So appreciate you being here and just, you know, finding out more about the world on and off planet for yourselves. I'll see you soon and I send you my love.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo. Aloha. Okay.